Hi! In this video, we're going to look at unreal conditional statements using if it weren't for or if it hadn't been for. As an example, I could say, if it weren't for my friends, I would be lonely. But now, in this statement, do I have friends?
Yes, you have friends.
Am I lonely?
No.
But if I didn't have friends...
Then you would be lonely.
Okay, or I could say, if it hadn't been for my friends in grade school, I would have been lonely.
Okay.
No? Did I have friends in grade school?
Yes, you had friends in grade school.
Was I lonely in grade school?
No, you weren't. But you would have been lonely if you hadn't had friends.
Perfect. Exactly. So we're going to look at a series of events and how they could have changed using these two statements. So, as an example.
Okay, as an example, if it hadn't been for all the values my parents taught me, I might have made really bad choices in my life.
That's probably true, so we got to be thankful for our parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, speaking of my parents, if it hadn't been for my parents telling me to always wear a helmet when I ride a bike, I may have had a traumatic brain injury right now.
And if you got your brain scrambled by not wearing a helmet, we may not have gotten married because you might have been weird. If it hadn't been for my friend Anne, I never would have gone to college. If it hadn't been for college, I would not have joined the choir. And if it weren't for choir, I probably wouldn't have met you. And if I hadn't met you, we wouldn't be married.
It would have been very sad. Well, if it weren't for me taking piano lessons, or I should say, if it weren't for my parents making me take piano lessons, we wouldn't have gotten married.
Wait a minute. How is that?
Well, because if it hadn't been for my parents making me take piano lessons, then I wouldn't have studied music.
Okay.
And since I was taking a music class in college, and I already had studied some of that, then I didn't have to go to class for the first week.
Okay.
And if it weren't for skipping class during that first week, I wouldn't have met you on the way to the cafeteria.
I see. Okay, another kudos to your parents. If it weren't for your parents giving us that cookbook, I would not know how to cook right now.
And if it hadn't been for you learning to cook, we would still be eating ramen and toast.
It's true.
And the occasional boiled egg.
You know, speaking of food, if it weren't for us coming to Morocco, we never would have tried tagine.
Or bastia.
Or couscous.
Or shebekia.
Ooh, shebekia. I love shebekia.
Not as much as me though. But anyway, if it weren't for my friend inviting us to come to Morocco, we would have never visited in the first place, and we would never have stayed.
And if it weren't for us staying in Morocco, you may have never taught English.
Now, I would like to shift gears just a little bit and look at our situation right now, here in lockdown during this time of a global pandemic of corona. So, it would be easy to say, well, if it weren't for corona, we wouldn't be in lockdown right now. Or, if it weren't for corona, I would be riding my bike with my friends every day.
Or if it weren't for corona, I could get out of the house and go visit my friends or go do something interesting.
Or if it weren't for corona, I wouldn't have to do all the shopping.
He's allergic to shopping.
I hate shopping, but I have to do it now because I'm the only one with a paper. So, it's easy to get pessimistic about our situation, but let's look at the positive side for just a couple minutes.
So, if it weren't for corona, we wouldn't be in lockdown right now.
And if it weren't for being in lockdown, I wouldn't be at home.
And yet, if it hadn't been for you being at home so much, we wouldn't be spending as much time with our kids.
No, that's true. Because if it weren't for staying at home, spending time with the kids, I wouldn't have some of these good memories that I've had from the past few weeks.
You know, that makes me think. If it weren't for sickness, we might not appreciate our health as much as we do.
And if it hadn't been for losing a little bit of our freedoms right now, we might not appreciate the freedoms that we enjoy every day.
Good point.
So what kinds of things can you be thankful for right now?
It's your turn. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like you to think about who in your life has helped you to get to where you are now. If it hadn't been for maybe your mom, if it hadn't been for your dad, if it weren't for your supportive friends, where would you be now? Let us know in the comment section down below.
And make sure when you do so that you use the grammatical structure if it weren't for or if it hadn't been for. Signing off.
Bye-bye.
Bye.